Hello crafty friends, I'm Lien from Studio Kato and I'm so happy to be back on the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel today. I'm sharing once again 2 cards today. They were really quick to make. I used the huge Penelope's Garden stamp by Crafty Meraki. I was going to say stamp set, but it's only one stamp. It's huge, like I mentioned, which makes it really easy to mass produce cards with this. If you need a lot of cards, this is the perfect stamp for you. And actually, Crafty Meraki came out with a couple of these. So check out all of the huge floral designs on the Crafty Meraki shop. So you can definitely find one you love and make a bunch of cards with them. Now I mentioned these cards were really quick to make and I meant it. I spent 50 minutes to finish both cards, and I started out by stamping the large Penelope's Garden stamp onto Canson Moval 200 GSM cardstock with Versamark ink, and I embossed it with white embossing powder by Wow. I'm just going to heat set this, and then I'm going to tape this to my work surface. Now, the time to make these cards doesn't factor in the drying time because I am going to use a very wet technique and I am going to let it dry naturally, and that is what makes the color so intense. So I'm using these gorgeous Nuvo shimmer powders. You can also use Lindy's magical shakers or any watercolor powder like that, but the great thing about Nuvo shimmer powders is that if you have 3 colors, specifically these 3, you basically have a rainbow. So I'm just sprinkling on some powder. The more powder you use, the more intense the color is going to be, and I used a lot more powder than I usually would. I wanted a very deep, rich jewel tone to my card. I didn't want any pastel shades or anything like that, so I used a lot more powder than I normally would. Still, these powders will last me a lifetime. You really don't need much to get a very intense color. So as you can see, I am by no means covering this entire page with powder. It's not a lot on there, and all I'm going to do now is spritz it with water and let it sit. So I spritz it with a lot of water to get a lot of movement going, and especially with that embossing powder, you are not going to get a lot of transfer over the lines with the powder. So if you notice a couple of areas that don't have color, just take a paintbrush, don't touch it too much, and let it dry. So I actually went to dinner with my family while this dried, and when I came back, there was still one spot that was a little bit damp. So it takes 3 hours for it to completely dry. I know that for a fact. Usually I let it sit overnight, but yeah, 3 hours. So that's obviously not factored in to the time that it took me to make these cards because I left my desk. Now all that's left to do is cut up the panel. I got 2 card panels out of this, and I'm stamping a bunch of sentiments from my favorite things onto black cardstock with some more of that Versamark ink. I wanted a white embossed sentiment on black cardstock because I thought of doing it the other way around, just stamping black on white, but I thought the white outline of the sentiments, because I will die-cut these out, would make it not as legible with the white outlines that you have on the watercolor panels. So just heat set these. I will die cut these out with coordinating dies, and then it's time to assemble my cards. I'm making one mini slimline card, and I used some craft foam, bright orange craft foam, to prop up that panel onto a card base. I used I wanted to say sticky adhesive. I meant double-sided adhesive. I used double-sided adhesive to adhere the craft foam to the panel, and then to adhere all of that to my card base. I am just scoring that mini slimline card base. I have a top folding mini slimline card base because I have really large sheets of cardstock, which make it easy to make top folding note cards like this, even when they're quite large. But you can just use a side folding card base if you want. I am putting some cardboard strips behind my strip sentiments. And then I wanted to adhere these at an angle, but I thought it looked a little bit messy, especially with how busy that background is. I thought it would be a little bit less messy if I just adhered them on straight, which is a challenge for me. So they're not completely straight, but I managed. I'm adhering these onto the card base or onto the card panel with Nuvo Deluxe adhesive because of all of that embossing powder. Embossing powder is slick, so you want to use very strong adhesive. Nuvo Deluxe adhesive is perfect for that. I would stay away from Barely Art Precision Craft glue for things like that. I love Barely Art Precision Craft glue to glue paper to paper. You see me use it throughout this video, especially for this sentiment. It's very handy because it's such a fine tip. So I'm stacking all of those sentiment dies together. In total, it's 4 layers, so I stack those together with Barely Art Precision Craft glue. But once I'm ready to adhere it onto that cardstock with all of that embossing powder on it, I will use Nuvo Deluxe adhesive because it's just better at handling slick surfaces. So these are really easy cards to put together. I just propped up the panels on some cardboard or some craft foam, and I just added a sentiment. This large sentiment is perfect for this A2 size card over that huge bloom. I love it. Yeah, it's really easy. And it's very, very shimmery. It's not really picking it up on camera. It never does, but these powders are extremely shimmery. They are very, very shiny, very, very gorgeous, and super vibrant colors. I love these Nuvo shimmer powders. So 2 cards out of 1 stamped image. I love these huge stamps by Crafty Meraki. I hope you check them out. So this was the Penelope's Garden stamp. There's also Garden of Eden, and I think there's a third one, but now I'm not sure. I will link all of the huge flower stamps in the description below so you can check them all out. I hope you like the cards. They're really easy to make. They're perfect for a late night craft session to make all of these backgrounds and then just assemble them the next day. It's perfect for that, especially considering the drying time of these powders. Yeah, I hope you try this out. Show me what you make on Instagram maybe. That would be fun. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.